The story of how we, Homo sapiens, came to dominate this planet is usually told with images of mighty hunters on the savannah or brilliant inventors in workshops. But that's starting the story in the middle. The real beginning, the prologue to everything we are, is much humbler. It starts 66 million years ago, not with a human, but with a tiny, terrified mammal that looked a lot like a squirrel, scurrying through the trees in a world just reborn from apocalypse. This is the story of how that creature's tentative grasp on a branch evolved into the hands that build skyscrapers and write symphonies. It's the story of how a rodent thumbnail gave us the world. Let's rewind to a geological instant, 66 million years ago. A 6-mile-wide asteroid slams into the Earth. The impact triggers a mass extinction that wipes out 75% of all species, including, most famously, the dinosaurs. For 160 million years, mammals had lived in the shadows of these giants. Now, the giants were gone. This global catastrophe left a massive ecological vacuum, and mammals were perfectly poised to fill it. They radiated out, diversifying into countless new forms. And among the first to seize this opportunity were our ancestors. Fossil hunters in Montana have found the evidence, a creature called Purgatorius. It was tiny, no bigger than a modern rat, weighing just 37 grams. Crucially, these fossils date to just over 100,000 years after the asteroid hit. Purgatorius is our earliest known proto-primate, and while it might have looked like a squirrel, the key to its future and ours was in its ankles. The bones show a flexibility and mobility perfectly adapted for life in the trees. As the world recovered, our lineage didn't stay on the forest floor. We went up. This move into the trees became the crucible for our evolution. Life in a complex, three-dimensional world of branches and vines demands a whole new set of skills. This is the heart of what scientists call the arboreal theory. To survive, you can't just rely on smell like ground dwellers. You need to see the world in a new way. Primate eyes began to shift from the sides of the head to the front. This creates overlapping fields of view, giving us stereoscopic vision. It's what gives you depth perception, the ability to judge the distance to the next branch before you leap. A miscalculation could be fatal, so natural selection strongly favored better vision. But the most critical adaptation was in our hands and feet. Other animals, like squirrels, climb with sharp claws that dig into bark. Early primates developed a different strategy. Our digits grew longer, and we evolved an opposable thumb that could press against the other fingers. This lets you get a secure grip on branches of all sizes. And this led to one of the most important and often overlooked innovations in our entire evolutionary history: the switch from claws to nails. The oldest evidence for this comes from a 56-million-year-old primate called Teilhardina brandti. It had tiny, true nails. Why is a flat nail so much better than a sharp claw for a tree dweller? First, it provides a broad, supportive surface for the fleshy pads of your fingertips, making your grip more secure. A claw can snag or get in the way. Second, and this is the revolutionary part, getting rid of the claw exposes the incredibly sensitive nerve endings in our fingertips. The hand stopped being just a grappling hook for climbing and started becoming a highly refined sensory organ. It could feel the texture of bark, the ripeness of a fruit, the stability of a branch. This seemingly tiny anatomical tweak, a flat nail instead of a claw, was the moment our hands were emancipated, freed for tasks far more complex than just getting around. For millions of years, this advanced primate toolkit, 3D vision and grasping hands, made our ancestors the masters of the arboreal world. But evolution never stops. As climates changed, particularly in Africa, dense forests gave way to open woodlands and savannas. Some primates stayed in the trees. Our lineage, however, began to spend more and more time on the ground. We became bipedal, walking on two legs. and this freed the hand completely. It was no longer needed for locomotion. It got a promotion. This transition is captured beautifully in the fossil record. Take Australopithecus afarensis, the species of the famous Lucy skeleton, who lived around 3.5 million years ago. Her hand bones show a fascinating mix of old and new. She had curved finger bones, a clear sign that she was still a capable climber, probably scrambling into trees at night for safety. But her hands also had features pointing towards something new: enhanced dexterity. In fact, a 2015 study suggested that even Lucy might have had a precision grip comparable to our own, a million years before the first definitive stone tools appear. The potential was already there, locked in the anatomy. This is where we need to understand the two fundamental human grips, first identified by the anatomist John Napier. First, there's the power grip. This is when you clamp down on an object with your fingers and thumb, like when you're holding a hammer. It's all about force. Second, there's the precision grip. This is holding an object between the tip of your thumb and the tips of your other fingers, like when you're holding a pen. It's all about fine, controlled manipulation. While other apes can manage a clumsy version, only humans can apply significant force while using a precision grip. This unique ability is thanks to a fully opposable thumb and specialized muscles that other primates lack. The evidence that our ancestors were using these grips is written inside their bones. The internal, spongy part of a bone, called trabecular bone, remodels itself based on how it's habitually used. When scientists looked at the hand bones of Australopithecus africanus from 2 to 3 million years ago, they found a bone pattern consistent with forceful precision gripping, the kind you'd use to manipulate objects or use simple tools. The hand, once perfected for life among the branches, was now being primed for a new destiny on the ground, a destiny of technology. And that brings us to the genus Homo, and one of the most powerful forces in our entire history, the hand-brain feedback loop. Around 2.6 million years ago, something incredible happened. Our ancestors started making stone tools. These first implements, called the Oldowan toolkit, were simple, crude choppers and sharp flakes, made by striking one rock with another. The species most associated with this is Homo habilis, whose name literally means handyman. Making even a simple tool like this represents a monumental cognitive leap. It requires forethought. You have to find the right kind of rock. You have to understand fracture mechanics, how to hit it just right to produce a sharp edge. And you cannot do it without a hand capable of both a power grip to hold the core stone steady and a precision grip to direct the blow from the hammerstone. This is where the feedback loop kicks in, and it's a cycle that changed everything. Step 1. An evolved hand with greater dexterity allows you to make better tools. Step 2. You use those sharp tools to do things you couldn't do before, like butchering animal carcasses to get at calorie-dense meat and nutrient-rich bone marrow. Step 3. This higher quality diet provides the fuel needed to grow a larger, more complex, and very metabolically expensive brain. Step 4. That bigger brain gives you better cognitive abilities, more planning, better social learning, and finer motor control. And Step 5. Those enhanced mental skills allow you to dream up and create even more sophisticated tools, which requires an even more dexterous hand. And the cycle begins again, each turn accelerating the next. We were actively shaping our own evolution. Our hands became the crucial intermediary between our growing minds and the resources of the environment. And you can trace this acceleration in the archaeological record. After the simple Oldowan choppers, around 1.7 million years ago, a new technology appears, the Acheulean industry, associated with Homo erectus. Its signature tool is the hand axe. This is no simple chopper. A hand axe is a large, teardrop-shaped tool, flaked symmetrically on both sides. To make one, you need a mental template, a preconceived idea of the final form in your mind, and then you need the skill to execute dozens, sometimes hundreds, of precise strikes to impose that design onto a rough block of stone. This required a huge leap in both manual dexterity and the ability to think in 3 dimensions. Fast forward again. The Neanderthals developed an even more complex method called the Levallois technique. This involved carefully preparing a stone core so you could strike off a single, perfect flake of a predetermined size and shape. The level of forethought and planning is astounding. Their hands were incredibly strong, built for power, but they were also clearly capable of extremely precise work. Then comes our own species, Homo sapiens, emerging in Africa around 300,000 years ago. And with us, technology explodes. We see an incredible array of specialized tools made from stone, bone, ivory, and antler. We invented spear throwers, called atlatls, that dramatically increased the power and range of our hunting weapons. We created tiny-eyed needles for sewing fitted clothing to survive in colder climates. We carved intricate fish hooks. Each of these inventions demanded the full spectrum of human hand capabilities, from the brute force needed to shape an antler to the delicate precision needed to thread a needle with a strand of sinew. But perhaps nothing expresses the ultimate refinement of the hand-brain partnership more powerfully than the birth of art. In caves like Chauvet and Lascaux in France, our ancestors used their hands to mix pigments from minerals and paint breathtaking murals of lions, bison, and horses. They sculpted small Venus figurines from stone and ivory. They engraved complex geometric patterns onto their bone tools. These creative acts are the ultimate expression of the precision grip. They demonstrate a level of fine motor control, hand-eye coordination, and symbolic thought that is leagues beyond just making a tool for a task. The very same hand that could powerfully wield a club to defend against a cave bear could also delicately trace the outline of a horse on a cave wall. This duality, the hand's capacity for both brute force and exquisite finesse, is the culmination of 66 million years of evolution. It's a direct legacy of those first adaptations, honed in the branches of ancient forests. And this journey isn't just a story about the distant past. The anatomical architecture forged over millions of years is the literal foundation of our modern world. That hand-brain feedback loop never stopped. It just changed materials, from stone to silicon. Think of a surgeon using a precision grip honed by millions of years of tool-making to manipulate a scalpel and save a life. Think of a concert pianist whose fingers fly across the keys in a dazzling display of complex, sequential motor control, a skill built on the same neural pathways once used to flake a stone core. The writer holding a pen, the engineer drafting a blueprint, the programmer typing code. We are all, every day, using a biological toolkit that began its evolution with a small creature grasping a branch in a post-dinosaur world. Our minds and our hands are so deeply intertwined that our very thinking is embodied. We gesture when we speak, using our hands to give physical form to abstract thoughts. We say we need to get a handle on a problem or grasp a new concept. We learn best by doing, by physically manipulating the world. The hand is not just a servant to the brain, it is a partner in the act of thinking. So the evolutionary arc from a rodent thumbnail to human global dominance is a story of staggering transformation. It starts with a tiny mammal, Purgatorius, surviving a cataclysm by taking to the trees. In that canopy, the fundamental primate toolkit was forged. Forward-facing eyes, and most critically, grasping hands with sensitive fingertips and flat nails instead of claws. That hand, designed for navigating branches, was later repurposed on the African savanna. Freed by bipedalism, it began to make tools. This ignited the hand-brain feedback loop, a self-accelerating cycle of better tools, better food, bigger brains, and better hands. This cycle drove our journey from the simple choppers of Homo habilis to the complex art and incredible inventions of Homo sapiens. A subtle change in the anatomy of a finger, A shift from a claw to a nail on a creature we would barely recognize as a relative was one of the key events that made us possible. The result is the human hand, an instrument of unparalleled power and creativity. The legacy of that first, tentative grasp in a primeval forest is the entire world we now hold in our hands. The question is, what will we do with it?